How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Arcade Wilders. I'm Grim Zenta, joined by my host, Mazer Ultor, and I am Fortress. If this is your first time here, thank you for being here. This is an First Ascendants only podcast where we talk about everything First Ascendants, from updates to hot fixes to new drops in the seasons to new characters and how we feel about the game overall. Today, we're going to be getting into the hotfix that just dropped. It'll be involving the new invasion missions. If you guys listened to the last episode or watched it, you know how frustrating we were with it, how long it took us to get through those missions, how there was a set that we just didn't even do 1 week. I haven't hopped into the new invasion missions since they did this update. Fortress, I'm not sure if you have. Mazer, same.
Nope. I looked at the debuffs, but nothing beyond that.
And that's all right.
Been grinding other stuff.
That is cool. But first off, how's everybody's? How was your weekend? How's your guys' day going?
Mine's going good. My job's broken, so it has been a interesting last couple of days.
Yeah.
But I mean, outside of that, things have been going good.
Cool.
Still in the middle of selling my house. Yeah, just cruising.
Nice. Fortress, what you got going on? How's life treating you?
Weekend was good. I was all by my lonesome all weekend. So I spent zero money. That was kind of cool.
That's always a good time,
Hey.
especially when you got this game to play.
Going to the gym, keeping it easy. Worked relatively easy this week, and this weekend looking like I'll have another totally free day. But next weekend is Morgan's birthday, so got a lot of fun stuff planned for that.
Nice.
Yeah, just grinding, man. Grinding the game whenever I get the chance to.
Same, dude. Like, just taking every opportunity I can. Like, don't have a whole lot going on myself. Just working and playing First Ascendants as much as I can to catch up out there with all the people that do nothing but this.
Right.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't jealous, but it is what it is.
Solo gluttony, $3.
Yeah, those guys. But let's go ahead and get started and get into the thing. So the hotfix that we're talking about, the update that they dropped, was hotfix 1.1.1. So 1, essentially. And like I said, it encompasses all of the invasion missions that dropped. Ones that were big, that I know that me and Fortress are happy now to have is updates to the pillars in the Order of Truth dungeons, where the symbols are now more recognizable. Shooting the tumors off of them, they don't grow back. All of the pillars that had nothing on them have been taken out. They did say that they also now make sure that all the pillars are facing in towards the field. To be honest, I could have done without that, because I like the fact that I can look at the pillar but also see the enemies coming at me. So that may throw me off a little bit instead of having my back to them. But that wasn't in every situation, so I don't think it'll matter too much. They also reduced the number of pillars from 6 to 4. So that's pretty nice. So that it'll make it a lot faster to go through those missions and find what you need to match up to the bots. The robots that are floating around, they said that they reduced the speed of those robots, and they changed the paths of which they travel. So that's pretty good. I'm loving that.
I didn't have so much issue with that.
No, I didn't really think that was a problem, but maybe it was for some people, and maybe they listened to that. But I do like that the symbols are more recognizable. I mean, I thought they were recognizable before. It was just, playing the memory game in the midst of fighting was a little difficult. But they changed they changed them up here, so you gotta know we got an X, a triangle, a circle, and a square, essentially. Which is fine. That's okay. I know I didn't really have any issues there, but whatever makes it easier for everyone else to enjoy the invasion missions, I'll take it. They added in some more stuff like the energy emitter. But if you do want to check out the updates for yourselves, you can check out the First Descendants website, or if you're on Twitter, go check out their page because they posted all of them in there as well. As for the Legion of Immortal dungeon, that one had the pads that you have to stand on to match the colors. The changes that they brought to that are, again, changing the symbols to make them easier to recognize. The number of seconds that it takes to activate a pillar has gone down to 3 seconds. And the number of, not pillars, tiles, the number of tiles that are now in there are 4. So that'll make that go by a little bit faster as well.
There's only one false answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
When it comes to the Legion of Immortal, there's the other one where you got to collect the brains and then turn them in. They changed that one up a little bit. They reduced the number of brains from what it was to 20, and now the number that you can hold in one go has now been reduced from 15 to 10. But, I mean, again, to combat the fact that they reduced it to 20,
Sure,
whatever
yeah.
it was.
That came into effect. I noticed that one came into effect with the last fix because the last 2 invasions, I could only hold 10.
Mm-hmm.
But if I did 10 twice, it was fully clearing it. So.
Okay. Yeah, no. I'm liking what they're doing so far. It seems like it'll make them more enjoyable. And if you guys notice by the title of the stream, which will also be the title of the podcast, are these missions dull? Because I did come across an article that's saying that they nerfed the missions and that they now feel dull. I'm not sure about you guys. I haven't gotten to try them out yet. But I was enjoying the missions to begin with. And if they just made them easier to rock out so that we can get what we need out of them. They also increase the number of materials for Haley from them as well. Like,
Yep.
I don't see how they're dull now. I don't get that. So
I think some of the people that you could see probably saying that the missions have gotten dull. That's probably your top 1%. You know, the dudes that are out there that are like, oh hey, solo any hard boss for $3. Like, I think that's your 1%. Because it usually seems that your smallest minority is also the loudest.
yeah.
And they're probably the ones that are more prominently in the actual First Descendant Discord. They're probably all over message boards. They're absolute Reddit rats. Like, they're dudes that have nothing else to do but to be chronically online, play their game and, voice their complaints at all hours of the day versus, players like us where we have full-time jobs and touch grass. So, I mean, we don't have all the time in the world to do the complaining. We have had our complaints, but it seems that even outside of being, I mean, I don't want to say relatively voiceless, but I haven't really gone online and expressed any ill content. All of my issues seem to get fixed. So they seem to be pretty universal with your regular gamer and with your everyday player. It seems like those things are getting fixed almost instantaneously. Now, they aren't leaving out that small minority who is at this wild level to where this shit could maybe start to feel dull, to where it was almost unbeatable to people like you and I.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy that they're actually they're quelling the fear that I had, that maybe they were going to pay attention to the wrong fan base. Maybe they were only going to listen to the loudest minority that was out there instead of the silent majority that, we don't have the time to get on message boards and maybe complain. I know I expressed my worry about this before. It's kind of what Halo did. Halo listened to all the complaints of nobody but people that played HCS and nothing but ranked and stuff like that, and that's the only stuff they fixed. And I'm happy that the First Descendant developers actually paid attention to this broad spectrum of their audience. It was everybody from the top down to the bottom. Your Mastery 30s down to your Mastery 1s. They heard everything that everybody said and corrected accordingly to maybe make it, okay, yeah, maybe it might seem a little bit easier now to what I guess if you could correlate easy to dull to somebody that's just overly OP in this game already.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you could call it dull, maybe you could, but that's a very small majority of people. I think the vast majority of people were playing it just like us, and we were like, hey, this is too much. You guys gotta help us out a little bit here. I think the fixes that they did were a little bit better. They didn't lower the difficulty at all, but they made a couple of tweaks to maybe not make it as not as complicated. They kind of dialed down the puzzles instead of dialing down the difficulty. I think the only thing that they did in terms of difficulty was lower the amount of mobs that came after you, but they kind of dumbed down the puzzles a little bit. You know, you have a game like this where they don't tell you what to do. You know what I mean? If you went into Hanged Man or Gluttony or Obstructor, they don't tell you what to do. You go in there and you're on your own. And these are relatively the same way. So I think for not telling us the secrets and still making us figure it out ourselves, I think they've been able to find a pretty good balance. And I think if they sacrificed a little bit of good working relationship, I guess, with your top 0.5%, I think that was a sacrifice they were willing to make, and I'm happy that's the sacrifice they made, not the sacrifice versus your other 99% of players who aren't at that.
I agree, especially with the game being as new as it is. So you still have a lot of people that haven't sunk an enormous amount of time into this game, that haven't grinded. There are people out there that haven't grinded as much as we are, and we're not even in the top 1%ers. So I like that. I like what they did. It feels good. I 100% agree with you. Thank you.
I mean, and that's just such a good note. I think that's such a good note for longevity itself, is paying attention more to the vast majority of players and your regular casual players, because those are going to be your new players. You know, those are going to be your players that go and tell their friends, hey, yo, you got to get this game or whatever like that. If you're just catering to that top 0.1% and the game continues to get harder, it's going to turn into Destiny really fast, to where if you didn't jump in here during preseason and start playing at that time, you're behind the curve and it's just not going to happen for you.
Yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, that can happen with almost any game. Like this game, definitely. Like you get a couple of seasons in, and you jump in, and everything's going to feel very daunting. But I do like the fact that I hope that they stray away from just bombarding you with everything right at the get go, and then making you feel overwhelmed. Because I know when I hopped into Destiny first, my experience from when I first started Destiny to experiencing First Ascendants at first is vastly different. And that, unfortunately, that may have something to do with the fact that I did sink a lot of time into Destiny to a point to where I got to the raids but couldn't. And I did sink a good chunk of time into Warframe, and I just felt still behind the curve. So I'm used to these types of games. So my perception may be a little bit different than everyone else's, but it still feels good. I know where people are coming from when they say that I feel behind the curve when I joined this game or when I started. So I've been there, and I'm telling you right now that you won't have, if you have that feeling, then just check out the communities. There are tons of communities out there on Facebook, on Twitter, in Discord chats that are willing to help. It may not seem like that at first. You can always hop into my Discord. Like, we're definitely willing to help. I'm still trying to build it up to try to get newcomers more acclimated to the game so that we can still enjoy this for everything that it's worth. So I'm liking where things are going. And it looks like they didn't just make changes to the invasion missions. They made changes to the inversion reinforcement as well. So like how a lot of them look like they had negative effects as well as positive ones, and the positive ones didn't look like they got really good until the end. All of them look good now. There are a couple that have some negative drawbacks, but so like the effective range is reduced by -1%. That's almost nothing in comparison to if you're building your character correctly. I wouldn't suggest it for a newcomer to hop into an invasion mission. But for someone like us,
I don't think they're geared towards new players at all.
Yeah,
so that's
I
think they still drive home the whole complete the game first type of deal.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It gives the player something to look to at the end game as well. There's a lot more to it than just the grind. And they buffed up a lot of the benefits of these inversion reinforcements as well. So like using them in general sounds good, as well as using them on the outside may help you as well, depending on what you pick. Which is an issue that we had, where like it only made sense to put them on when we did the invasion missions. Now it seems like having them on in general, depending on the ones you pick, may help you in other aspects as well, and I like that. Which is the thing that I was worried about with, like, okay, I do this, what am I getting afterwards? Now, these will go away at the end of the season, and new ones will come in. We're still waiting to see if we get something out of all of this at the end, but we'll see. I'm willing to wait now because I'm having more fun with the game than with season one. I thought that I would, in fear of having this stuff only for a temporary time. So I'm excited to see what comes next.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think with that update, with updating the inversion reinforcements or whatever, that oh shit, what did I just do? Honestly, I feel like that one actually kind of wasn't even necessary. I think there was a little bit to that, to where, you know, okay, having a couple of drawbacks at the early levels, like it was, I think that was fine, because then it's like, okay, you're running these, but you have a couple of drawbacks, and that's kind of like, it was kind of concurrent to the story that they built around them, is that it was kind of, you know, dangerous tech and everything, it's untested, this, that. So I think, you know, maybe only having the first upgrade, that was, you know, it kind of made sense as far as being canonic, but I noticed, you know, as I got further down the line, because I have 8 inversion enforcements, you know, all those negative drawbacks started to go away, and your positive drawbacks actually got higher. So it enticed you a little bit more to do more of the invasion missions and get higher in that, so that you could get rid of the drawbacks and only apply positives. So I think that was kind of okay the way that it was. I think they did a little bit of catering to a little bit of like, oh, this is like, you know, you're making this worse for me or whatever. I think they catered a little bit to that, and I think they could have left that system the same. I didn't mind that how it was. Once I got to a higher level and I understood that, like, oh, now all these negative drawbacks go away. All I got to do is just use my higher inversion reinforcements, and then I have no negative drawbacks. It's all positive. And I don't think anybody gave it enough time. I think with how hard the missions were, they weren't doing them, so they didn't have enough inversion reinforcements, which means they didn't get high enough to just only reap benefits. They were still reaping debuffs, and I think that's what may have caused a little bit of backlash on those. So I think in some categories, I think the devs need to be a little bit more stalwart in what they're doing, and if they decide not to change something, I think this is a company that would be pretty good at handling that, of explaining why they're not changing something. Like, hey, this is why we did what we did, and this is why we're going to leave it for a little while. If we start to notice a little bit more problems, okay, maybe we'll look into a little bit of something. But I think they could have stood fast on that one for a little bit and been all right.
Okay, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I mean, I'm more okay with them changing it. They probably could. I agree with the leveling up and then putting more into it. So they probably could have kept the debuffs where they were at, or maybe increased it a little bit, but also increased the buffs, because a lot of the buffs here look really good. But it also, as it stays canonically, as you were stating, with the story and how like it has a negative drawback to using inversion energy. It also, them doing this buff to the inversion reinforcement skills adds to what they were saying they wanted out of us playing the game with this new setup, because they wanted us to be able to build our descendants and make them more powerful than they were, and then form them into our own liking past what we already have them by giving them these buffs. Because even at the end of the inversion reinforcements before this update, I still didn't necessarily see how, with everything in my head, how it would have made me that much more stronger than if I had changed out a module or two. Versus what they did after the update. Now, if I were to tack on 3 of whatever inversion reinforcement skill sets that I put on, now it's changing the game for me enough to want to get to the end of each set to make my descendant that much more powerful when I'm running through a mission, or when I'm running through the game, or when I'm running through a Colossus fight.
Yeah.
So I see where you're coming from, but I also like what they did. Now, again, they probably could have left the debuffs where they were at, but added on to the buffs, making them stronger.
Sure,
So like
sure,
the
yeah.
one where it says the biodensity augmentation, where it increases max HP plus 4.7%, and then defense negative 0.9% for 30 seconds, and it stacks 5. Now they probably could have left that defense where it was and up the HP like they did, where now it's an HP max of plus 9.5% for 30 seconds, and it stacks for 5.
Mm-hmm.
They could have done that and left the defense, and I would have been like, yo, I'm willing to make the sacrifice on the 0.9% defense to get that extra 0.95% defense at HP for 30 seconds going through what we went through.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Man,
yeah.
I
I
need
mean,
y'all
I think
to
it's only
drop
positive.
some fucking purple ammo.
There's some down here. I think I just saw. I mean, like I said, when I got higher up and I started unlocking more levels into it, to where like I was actually shedding those debuffs already, and I was only getting positives. Like one of the ones that I found, and this is a little bit more build specific for me, but I have inversion particle augmentation. When defeating enemy grants inversion particle augmentation, and defense up by 7% for 30 seconds, and it stacks 5 times. So for somebody like me that mains an Ajax, there's no debuff to that, and I'm just upping my specific build just based off of that, and that was already before this hotfix. So I was, like I said, once I got higher up in those, I was like, okay, now I see the light. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's probably why I feel the way that I feel about it.
Yeah, and that's understandable. I definitely get that. We're looking through the hotfix here, and it looks like I scrolled over a couple of things. So at the end of the inversion reinforcement skill set changes, they added in a couple of other things. So for people that are running overwhelming shield or overwhelming HP modules, just so you're tracking, they increase the shield capacity. Actually, they increase the max HP that it gives you to 26.8%. For overwhelming HP, they increase the max shields to 19.8%. And for pyromatic, standard and hard, they decrease the defense and HP of pyromatic in the intercept battles, but also decrease the HP and shields of the hummingbirds, which pyromatic uses in the intercept battles. If you guys have gone through there,
Yep.
in the standard, I'm not really sure that was needed. The hard, possibly. I mean, we've made it through, and like if you have a good team, it's not that bad. So I think the intercept battle is probably good to left alone. So basically what you were saying, if they did that for this intercept battle, I think I would agree with you 100%. I think the intercept battles were fun. I don't think they needed to touch those.
I think one of the things that I saw, I was on the First Descendants Facebook page, and there was a guy that commented, and he said that there's people that are he said stop going into hard mode bosses without a build.
Yes.
And that really kind of like set it down for me that like if you're just sitting there min-maxing, you're picking recommended module settings and you're maxing them the fuck out, and you don't have a specific build type, that's where you're really going to suffer. And I think lowering intercept battle difficulties like Pyromaniac, I think you're kind of taken away from that build aspect thing, and I think that like having a build, I think, is what makes the game special.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not necessarily so sure how much I agree with that fix, just because I agree with you that like I think you probably could have left those intercept battles alone. It takes a little while, but once we actually had our builds down and we worked at it and we grinded our asses off and got our characters to where we wanted to, I'll go into hard pyro right now.
Absolutely.
He can run this fade.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Whereas back in the day, I was dreading going into hard executioner, to whereas now I solo him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with the bosses where they were, it promoted making a build. You couldn't just run in there with any character, and I think that was one of the things that was a big focus with this game.
Yeah.
And I really hope they don't keep doing things like that that maybe pull away from the focus a little bit.
I agree. I wonder if, and this is just playing devil's advocate, if doing so, and if they continue this process in the future of maybe lowering hard bosses for people or bosses in general, because it said standard as well, if they're catering towards individuals that want to play the game how they want to play it, and making a build definitely still caters to that, but you also have casual people that hop in, so like Benji, love you homie, that may not spend the time necessary to make a correct build to go into a hard battle. So they're listening to their friends and saying, hey, toss this on, or they just look at one and they have some level of understanding of how those modules work and they toss it on, and or they like what it does for them because that's just what they enjoy doing, and but they're still able to make it through the standard and hard battles. Because no one likes going in and getting dusted every time and then having to look up something to figure out how to build, or spending the hours that we're willing to spend because we just love the game so much to figure out what works and what doesn't work. So I'm wondering if that's how they decide to do it, and if they decide to go that route of lowering the bosses for people that decide to play it that way. What are they going to give people like us and the 1%ers and everybody else that is taking the time to make up the perfect build that they want more enjoyable for us? Because I mean, cruising through bosses is fun and all, but at a certain point you kind of want a challenge if that's the type of person that
I wonder if they're going to make it like a third difficulty, perhaps.
I could see that.
Yeah, so that was something that they said in the hot patch, was that they said that there's going to be they're actually going to be adding a higher difficulty to infiltration missions.
Okay.
So it won't just be infiltrations normal and hard. I think there's going to be an extra one. That was something that they mentioned in the patch that you sent to me, Cliff. All the patch notes.
Nice. Which would be interesting, because if they do that in the invasion and the infiltration operations, is what you said.
Yeah, the infiltration. So like the boss missions.
Hey, Drew, what we're doing right now, these aren't infiltrations, are they?
No, this is a strategic outpost.
I could see them adding.
I've been sitting here wasting time doing the wrong one.
If they decide to add in a harder difficulty for the infiltration operations, I think at another point they may add in a higher difficulty for the entire game in general. So like how we can swap between normal and hard in the maps, maybe they'll toss in another difficulty, because I mean, if you look at the dialogue box, there's room to be adding in stuff. So I don't know if they did that on purpose. And I mean, how long until they are just gonna? I'd imagine that it makes sense for what you're saying and what Mazer's saying, that they add in a third difficulty, because if they don't, then they're just going to keep adding in hard bosses, and then we're just going to have this long trail that we go down whenever we're going and fighting hard bosses. At a certain point, like that's going to get old, and you're just like, okay, could you just make?
We're leaving anyways.
Yeah, could you make a harder difficulty already? So I like that idea if they decide to go that route. I think it would be interesting. It'll add to the game. It'll add to us continually play, giving us a challenge. Because I know that for the 1%ers out there, and that's to be honest, I think that's what we're going to start calling you guys. That you guys want the more of a challenge. All the people out there that's already hit like Mastery 30, and I expect that to go up as well in the future at some point.
Yeah,
so,
I can see that happening.
I'm waiting for a Mastery 50.
Yeah, I see it.
I think it'll end up going up to 100.
Yeah.
Some way, shape, or form.
And I still wonder if they're gonna do like a light level prestige mode in this as well, or if the mastery is what that is. Because Destiny had it. If you're people that play Destiny, you know what I'm talking about. Where like you hit a certain level and then you capped out, and beyond that was what was called your light level. So whenever you went to a mission, like that was basically your level on top of level, your extra prestige, not even a prestige because you're not resetting anything. But every time you added on a certain weapon, it increased your light level. Or if you added on a certain armor set, it increased your light level. So I wonder if they'll start doing that at a certain point and making changes to the guns and the external components.
Are you looking for infiltrations?
So
We're going to Magister's Lab because that's an
I was, gonna
infiltration.
say, I was about to say, just bring us back to Albion.
but
No, that's true. But we're already here.
yeah. So I'm liking the new hot fix. I'm liking what we got going on. Looks like we got some notes here.
Yeah. I mean, I think again, just to tack back on to the intercept battles.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about with that, right, is making it so like maybe a new player, kind of like my buddy Silva, or maybe like Benji, who hasn't beaten the game yet, or whatever like that. Like that's the whole reason that they make the hard mode not available until you beat the game.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't want to take away from your whole main point is to get people into the story and play through the story mode. You can't touch the hard mission, you can't touch the hard bosses, and you can't really start making these builds insane until you get to the hard mode, but you have to beat the game first.
Yeah.
So you don't want it to get to the point of like Halo where your story has become irrelevant. And now, you're spending all this money to make, 30-second cutscenes for one 30-second cutscene for a whole season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To which ultimately they eventually stop doing. They're like, this is pointless. We're not doing this shit no more. They do it for a fucking, they do a quick 15-second thing as like a commercial to promote the next season.
Yeah.
So you don't want it to get to that. You want to keep your story alive because the lore behind this game is something that people are going to want to get into. It's why the characters are who they are and everything. You don't want to lose the lore. That's another thing. That's another reason why people love Destiny so much. The lore was huge and it did a good job.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when it comes to the intercept battles, especially like hard mode and stuff like that, you don't want to get rid of it, and you don't want to make everything E for everyone. You know what I mean? You want to keep some stuff a little bit gate kept, so that like you have to put in a little bit of work to this game. You're not just jumping in with the what are we calling them now? The 1%ers.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just jumping in with them when you jump on the game. You can't just make a new profile, jump on the 1%er game, and now all of a sudden you're fucking up Obstructor and fucking
Yeah.
picking up Amorphous that I dream of. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I don't want them to get to that point. I like that they're catering to the little guy, but keep it within moderation. You know what I mean? There's certain things that you need to gatekeep to people that are actually spending time on your game.
I agree with that.
Because you don't want those people to feel like there's no reward to them anymore, and then now your dedicated fan base is now gone, and now you just have nothing but casual players that maybe play sometimes.
Right.
You want to have some form of what feels like dedication to you. You've spent time, you've invested hours, you have some form of loyalty to this game because of the amount of time you're putting in. So you don't want to make that feel like it was kind of for nothing, especially for like pre-seasoners like all of us. We've been here since legitimately day one. So you don't want to make those people feel like what they did was really for nothing when they could have just joined today, got everything that was already available. Oh, I'm already on hard bosses, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to demean them like that.
Yeah, no. I agree with that. And I don't see them going that way, and hopefully they don't. I would ask, if anything, that to keep people invested into the story, that whenever they do new seasons or they do new updates, instead of it just, because at the moment, when they introduced Season 1, I didn't feel the same, I guess, level of excitement for a new addition to the game as I did when I played through Destiny whenever they came out with new events or new dungeons or anything. Like they tacked on a couple of missions, but they kind of just felt like, oh yeah, no, I want to skip to it so that I can get to the invasion missions. Oh, I want to skip to it so I can finally get to the inversion reinforcement. So I would enjoy if they did put the time into it, because I mean they're making a good chunk of money off of the store, off the shop. So like putting that effort into making the cutscenes for the game and then basically promoting it a little bit more with those cutscenes to show off all that stuff that you guys put in, and to make the story still seem relevant in season 10. I would like to see that. I want to feel more engulfed into the lore, because I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy the story, yes. was it as good as Destiny's story or some of these other games out there that have stories that are similar to this? No.
Yeah, I mean, I skipped 90% of the cutscenes
Exactly.
and a lot of the talking just based off of that. But at the same time, I have a dedication to the game in a way of,
Yeah.
like I know Haley was a new like I know a lot of the lore. I'm not, I don't know every single fact about it right now, but I think, again, that's what made Destiny so special and have the longevity that it has. Is it had a really great story. When one of the voice actors died, dude, the internet was up in arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
like,
even when he
shit.
didn't pass away in real life, and his character passed away in the game, that was a big wave in the community, and that's kind of what I want for First Descendants. Unfortunately, I think we might be a little too late because the story didn't hit as hard as it should have in the beginning, which is fine. So that means I think that they're going to move in a different. To me, that means they're going to move in a different direction, and just add as much content as they possibly can to the game to make the story not necessarily irrelevant, but still make it more enjoyable to play.
Yeah,
and I'm okay with that. And I'm absolutely all right with that. But I think that is all for the hot fix, and I'm good with that. Because I always like to tack on the end to see where everybody's at, what everybody's up to. I think this time I'll start it off because they look like they're in a mission right now. Basically, I like to take a second and figure out like goals in the game, like what people are up to, what you're doing, what's your next grind. Because with this game being as grindy as it is, you're always grinding for something, and if you're not, I'm not really sure if you're enjoying the game as much as you think that you are. And that's just a personal opinion. So at the moment right now, I'm grinding for maxing out my Enduring Legacy. I am reworking my Ultimate Viessa, changing out a couple of modules. Luckily, I only have to crystallize her 2 more times. I've already crystallized her once, so a total of 3. So I changed out a few of the modules. And she's already looking better than she was when I thought I was done with her. Because her skill was only hitting for maybe 170,000 crit. Now her crit hit is almost at 500,000. So I'm happy. I'm happy with where it's going, and the modules aren't even done yet. So I'm liking this path. So that's where I'm at. I'm Ultimate VS, my Enduring Legacy. Afterwards, I think I'm going to start grinding for Haley. Just so, one, because I would like another Descendant to kind of like max out. I'm kind of weary on maxing out normal Descendants now if they're not an Ultimate, because then I feel like all that work I did was for nothing. But, which is why I haven't started on Freyna yet, because I know we're getting Ultimate Freyna. So I think I may just get her to boost my mastery.
You're getting targeted by bombers.
So there's that.
Yes, I
am. Mazer. What goals are you shooting for?
So right now, my big thing is I'm pushing for Enduring Legacy. Get that LMG game up, a little higher, a little bit more viable in some of these harder missions. Because that's something that I've noticed is that it is significantly stronger than my gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my big push right now. But other than that, it's getting my my new Ultimate Bunny where I want her. Ultimate Ajax is already pretty good, so I'm not too worried about messing with him a lot right now. But I'm gonna definitely be messing around more with Ultimate Bunny to try and get some stuff out of her.
Nice. Fortress, what about you? Got anything that you're shooting for now? I know you're trying to shoot for all Ultimate Descendants and all the Ultimate Weapons. But you got anything else on the plate?
Continuing the grind for a full Ultimate Descendant roster. I am 1 weapon away from every Ultimate Weapon.
Hell yeah.
I just need Last Dagger, which is, I just got to do missions to get it, which is something that I could just grind for solo. But it's, I'm getting close. I have Ultimate parts for 3 more Ultimate Descendants. I just need to really kind of put my time in and focus on them.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ultimate Ajax is he's kind of where I want him, man. Like all the time and effort that I put into Ajax, I'm very comfortable going into a lot of like hard bosses and standing there and laughing as they try. So that's been super rewarding. I've been having a great time with that.
Nice.
I'm currently working on Ultimate Lepic. I've done a couple of crystallizations on him. I'm working on him, Enduring Legacy, and Greg's Fate right now. My reactor specifically for Lepic is activated with Greg's Reversed Fate, so having that, which inflicts burn, combined with my Restored Relic, which inflicts burn, plus all the skill power that my God Killer Lepic will do, plus with the firepower of Enduring Legacy being upped when I target a burned character. I think as far as a God Killer fire character, I think this Lepic is going to be something pretty fucking crazy. I'm excited to see what I can do with it. Putting the time in to him that I put into Ajax. I'm happy I was kind of running them in tandem. I know I was a little bit worried about that in the beginning. I was like, I'm not focusing on one character the same way that you guys are. You guys seem a lot stronger when it comes to the skill power and stuff, but now that my Ajax is kind of where you guys are, and I'm already maybe 50-60% of the way done with this Lepic build, I'm like, okay, now I'm kind of ahead of the game, because I was focusing simultaneously as I was going, so I'm actually really happy about that. I'm happy with the playstyle that I did, and I continue to feel rewarded from this game. I could do the same mission 15 times. I continue to feel rewarded. So
yeah, absolutely.
My fun has not gone away.
Yeah, same here. I did just finish out Ultimate Bunny. My Ultimate Bunny is I like where she's at. I may go back and make some changes depending on what comes out. New mods dropping. Maybe some new external components are dropping. Maybe someone drops something about this reactor or that reactor. But I'm liking where she's at. She's hitting pretty hard. She's super fast. Now I just need my ultimate VS up there, where she'll be close. And then I'm not gonna shoot for an ultimate descendant roster only because I may shoot for an ultimate Lepic, maybe an ultimate Ajax. Not sure yet, but we'll see. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you again for listening to RK Wilders. It's been a good night. A lot of stuff covered in the hot fix. So I hope you guys are out there enjoying the game as much as we are. So after you're done here, we'll see you out there. Join us again next week, next Tuesday, same time, hopefully at 7:15 Central. If you have missed it or if you didn't get to hear all of it, you want to go back and listen to it some more, show it to your friends, let them know. We can also find this in podcast form because this is actually a podcast. I just like to do a live showing. To get some people in here, get some communicating going, get their perceptions, their thoughts on it. You can listen to the podcast version, the full length, on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. But that will do it for us tonight. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you out there, Descendants.
Deuces.